I'm Josh Connolly, and today I work as a life coach, a public speaker, and I'm an ambassador for a charity called the National Association for Children of Alcoholics. Anxiety and depression is something that I have struggled with a lot of my life, actually, and it's something that actually as a child growing up I didn't know I suffered with. I thought that it was just the way that it was. I grew up with an alcoholic father who was quite chaotic when he drank, and it meant that the world that I lived in when I was growing up and my brain was developing was a small world and felt like quite a frightening place, and was a place that left me questioning a lot of things in my life. But because that was my only normal, what I did as a child is I got a perception that there was something wrong with me, and so the depression that I felt was often shame-based, and the shame of what I experienced meant that I felt, again, like I say, like there was something wrong with me. And so with that came anxiety. For me, anxiety is something that's not discussed enough in the physical sense. It's something that I feel very consciously in my body, and I have done since I was a very young child. Again, I didn't know it when I was a child. It's that feeling in my chest, you know, the tightness in my chest, the idea that my heart is going to beat out of my chest and come out, the shakiness in my arms, you know, my legs twitching and moving at night is another way. My breath, my breathing, it becomes something that I find difficult to get control of. It can make my body go tense and my neck feel tight and give me a headache. And the physical sensations of that is something that I remember feeling as a child, but never ever hearing anybody else talk about. And often when we talk to people that we believe to be struggling, we say things like, it's okay and there's nothing to be scared of. And the world that I lived in was frightening when I was a child, and so when adults were often telling me that it's okay and there's nothing to worry about, when they were trying to make me feel better, I didn't know at a young age that that's what they were trying to do, and so I took what they said at face value. And so the fact that I felt all these things that nobody else was talking about fully submerged me in this idea that there was something wrong with me. This carried on with me into adulthood, and what I found is that through that adversity and through them struggles of when I was younger, I became obsessed with escape. I wanted to escape the ways that I feel. For me, I used alcohol and drugs, but I've used a whole host of things because it's too painful to bear just sitting with my anxiety sometimes. I've desperately always wanted to get rid of my anxiety, to get rid of my low moods and my, I can have real days where I have kind of like depressive episodes, and they don't come around as much anymore because I do lots in my life to try and prevent them, but it doesn't always work. And I think one of the big mistakes that's made around depression, anxiety, and mental health in general is this idea that the ways that we're feeling are somehow wrong and that we need to pull everybody out and get them away from it. With anxiety, one of the biggest problems I face with it is that when my mind tells me I shouldn't be feeling like this, and then them physical sensations of anxiety that I spoke about are quickly followed by me desperately trying not to feel like this. I mustn't feel like this. I shouldn't feel like this. Why do I feel like this? And then comes the shame. For me, I live a different life today, and I haven't beaten anxiety by not having anxiety. I beat anxiety by the way that I live in spite of my anxiety. And that means that there are some days that I really do have to write off, and I can't be as productive as I'd like to be because anxiety takes over. There's lots of different things for me that I do to keep that in check now, and I've learned lots of breathing exercises and ways to become mindful and separating myself from the anxiety feeling. So when I start to feel those physical sensations, I become curious about them, and it's more like, okay, I'm feeling anxious now. How's this come about? What does that feel like? Rather than, I shouldn't feel anxious, I need to not feel anxious, and then it gains power over me. Today I travel the country and I speak in schools and I speak in colleges, in the workplace, promoting open conversation around the ways that we feel. Lots of us struggle with anxiety, and I believe we don't even know it. There's people that are frantically doing things to cope with life that don't even know that what they're suffering from is anxiety. I suffered terribly from anxiety all my life, and I was around 26 years old, just like 5 years ago, before I realised that these sensations that I spoke about were actually anxiety. And then I was able to gain some power back over them. People who struggle with depression and with anxiety shouldn't be seen as different. They shouldn't be seen as weak. They shouldn't be stigmatized, and they shouldn't feel like they shouldn't be feeling like the ways that they do. We need to understand that my anxiety and some of the ways that I feel are part of me, and they're okay, and it's okay for me to feel them. And when I reach that space, then anxiety loses its power over me. It doesn't go away, it loses its power, and I'm able to get close to living somewhere near like my best life in spite of the anxiety. But that comes from me being allowed to own it, not trying to run away from it, and not trying to not feel it. There's lots of stats and there's lots of different research into anxiety and depression, and I think it's all very important. But one of the most vital things for me is the human experience, is to humanize what happens. It means different things to different people, and that's okay. And the ways that we deal with it are different to different people, and that's okay too. Wider conversation is vital. Anxiety and depression, certainly anxiety, doesn't have to ruin my life. The more we become open about it, the more I'm able to feel comfortable in situations when I need to leave because anxiety is on me. The more we can speak about it, the better. The more we can get the message out there, the better chance we've got of people that struggle with these things of living a more full and better life in spite of it.